Hello, and welcome to Tech Talks with Madonna, Season 2, Episode 3. Our guest today is Tammy Miller, a quality engineer with over 20 years of experience in information technology. Tammy's passion is working and helping people with information technology. Her focus has been in the areas of web design, website planning, web development, website maintenance, blogging, software testing, and teaching basic computer classes and Python. She enjoys the aspects of sharing her knowledge and coaching small businesses owner on the essentials of their business websites, and she's officially starting a new blog, Develop Bit, in which she will share her experience as a software tester, work productivity, and much more. Please follow her blog. Joining us, Tammy, do you mind introducing yourself?
Sure. Thank you so much. My name is Tammy, and I have been in the information technology field for the past 24 years, since 1998. Wow, time goes by so quickly. I've actually worked in the information technology field in different areas, starting with being a teacher, working in web development for 7 years, working in data analytics a little bit, and now I'm working as a software tester.
Wow, that is pretty impressive. And 24 years. I don't know what I was doing 24 years ago, but definitely not in the IT department or solving any kind of problems in the real world. Now, that brings me to a question. How do you see technology has evolved over the years? How does it feel to you?
I think technology has evolved for over the 24 years I've been in it, in a sense of new features, new enhancements have came through. When I first started out, when I went to college, they had, of course, COBOL. I'm dating myself. They had COBOL, then they shifted up to Java, and now Java has improved a whole lot from when I took it in college than, back in the day until now. And then now you see new other technologies like HTML and CSS and other things that have also evolved to make it much better and improve, for other people to actually be able to use it effectively and efficiently.
Yeah, that's a very good point, because I feel like one of the things that I've noticed too is that we have so many frameworks right now that make development so much easier as compared to before. And I always wonder, I do know schools though insist on people doing the basics so that people don't just learn on the, upper level, just the frameworks. But I do wonder, if you think about it, do you think frameworks, sorry if this question is also off, do you think frameworks are better as compared to learning the basics? What are your thoughts on that, being in the industry for this long?
Well, it all depends. I always took it in a measure of understanding what the basics are first with anything. Like I mentioned, since I went to college, that's what they taught us are the basics. And then from there, that's where you take it. What else do you want to learn? So even though we may have learned in college or university, like Java as the basics, but we have to keep on learning, and improving ourselves on what we are interested in doing. So it all depends, is what I'll say.
That is true. I like that answer, because I feel like that's so true. Because sometimes we do have indie developers, people that just want to make money from building apps. I mean, they don't have to go and start learning the in-depth. If there are frameworks that they can use, I mean, why not? That's what okay. I like that answer. And something else that I actually wanted to ask you is, what inspired you? 24 years ago, what inspired you to get into IT? Because I'm thinking there must have been other professions where it was pretty popular.
It was. Actually, it wasn't more of inspiring. I cannot tell you it wasn't inspiration. It was more of okay, this is the way that I'm going. So it really started with when I went to the university, I majored in accounting. And that was what I wanted to do. I wanted to be an accountant. That's it. You couldn't tell me anything. I wanted to be an accountant. Yeah. But when I got to the university, I just kept on not doing too well. I was failing. And the more I took the classes, I was doing really bad in them. And I was also working at the help desk, which was kind of interesting because since I like accounting, I would be like, okay, maybe I should work in something like in taxes or accounting while I'm in college. But I was working in the help desk, students, helping them with the computers and things. So one of the guys, I have to thank him. He was like, because he was asking, I kept on telling him I'm not doing too well in accounting. And he's like, well, why don't you take a IT course? And I'm like, what? What is that?
What is that?
What is that? I don't know. Like, why would I do that? I don't want that.
Yeah.
And that was just my thoughts. Like, no, I'm focused on accounting. That's what I want to do. And so he's like, just take one. And I'm like, I don't know. So I took one and I didn't do too well on it. So I went back to accounting. And then I did it again because I was like, okay, I don't want to give up. So I took the class over again, and I recall it was either an A or B, and it's like, okay, then I understand this then. And then from there, I just started taking all of the IT classes and just start excelling. So again, it's kind of like the inspiration story in a sense of like, even though you may have started out with one subject or career that you were interested in my case, is what I'm saying, it just didn't fit. Yeah. Even though I kept it as a minor, because you never know, I just went on ahead and switched over to doing information technology.
Oh my God, that's a very good point, because I feel like sometimes we, like for instance, myself, right? I wanted to become an aeronautical engineer. That was so much in my dream, and that's not what I am right now. Exactly. And I'm like, wait a minute, people do change actually. And I've also seen that also at school where kids say that, okay, I'm going to do this particular thing, but then when they're in the middle of it, they're like, I actually don't like it. So I wonder if there's a program where kids can go through. I think one is taking the 1 year gap year, like figuring out exactly what you want to do. But also, again, I always love a good pivot. So I don't mind people taking time off or diving in and then like, I don't like it. Maybe let me, even though there's a lot of money involved in school. So it's a tough situation. But either way, at the end of the day, what matters is you found your passion and now you're in it for 24 years.
Yes, I definitely was. Yeah. Now, there were some times where in 24 years I did pivot, when I first moved here, because it was very difficult finding a job. So I did other things, but my mind still stayed focused on dealing with computer classes or, dealing with computers. So yes, I was briefly like working as a secretary, but I still had my mind on computers. I worked in daycare, but I still had my mind on that. So again, I just briefly did those things, but it wasn't like, like years and years of it.
And actually, I think my next question is just going to tie back to that particular topic of pivoting. And I want to ask, being in the field for 24 years, you must have tasted different departments or different fields. And I want to understand from you, being in the industry, what was your progress like and how was it? Because sometimes I do know, for instance, me, I've not been in the industry for long and I've not pivoted a lot too. I've just been in the engineering. And I was wondering myself, what would be my next path? Like, what do I want to do next? So can you walk us through like how you decided maybe I want to do accounting a little bit and then maybe you want to do this other thing?
Sure. Well, with the information technology path, I really didn't, to be honest with you, didn't have a really clear goal. I just wanted to be in information technology. And when I graduated from college, the first thing was just to teach the computer class. So I'm like, okay, I can do that, and then it led on into working with the database. At that time, it was Microsoft Access with the same company. So things after that just was like, okay, I'm good at this teaching stuff and computers and teaching students and then working in database. So let me go in that direction. So that's how it actually started out. And then when I moved up here, I still taught computer classes and, shifted into working into like web development and things like that. So for me, it really wasn't a roadmap of like, I must be in web development. I must be a teacher. It's just that whatever first came, I believe, for me was just, I did it. It was like, just as long as I'm doing something in information technology, that's how I actually happened. Yeah.
Amazing.
I really wish I could have had like more of a clear path, but it was just like, okay, this came first. I'll do it.
No, I like it because I do meet a lot of women right now asking me, "Hey, Madonna, I'm actually doing this particular." Like I met a lady yesterday. She's doing marketing, and she was asking me, "I want to actually do engineering, and I'm wondering, it's pretty intimidating. How do I start?" And I told her, first of all, you have to remove the mindset that it's intimidating,
Yeah,
and be open to learning, and
right.
you'll find that it's not as much intimidated as I think people make it. Many layoffs that are happening.
Yeah,
Like it's very competitive to get in. So I told her, yeah, it's competitive, but you never know. You can stand out.
Mm-hmm.
Just put your mind to it. And if you like it, you got this. That's what I
Yes.
told her. What would you tell somebody like that wants to change their career from something they're doing to something new
Right.
in IT?
And I totally agree with you. Doing that, it does, now in this case, yeah, probably just have a goal in mind. Like I know it sounds like what I said earlier, I just did it.
Yeah.
But if you are deciding to like do a career shift, just, have in mind what are your initial goals. Like you really want to do like, this one here, this one here, and this one here.
Yeah.
What will it actually take you to actually transition? And even if you're unable to find a job directly into it, I like also doing things like what I'm currently doing now is volunteering through open source projects.
Yes.
That also helps a whole lot. So even if you're unable to find a job, like let's just say, I'm going to say QA, for example, or quality assurance, there's opportunities in volunteering for you to do quality assurance. And what I do is just use the old Google and just go out there and start Googling open source projects that need, help and whatever.
Oh, wow. I like that.
So that can also help as well for you to get a better understanding of like, is this something I really want to do? And that'll probably, in that case, save you some time. If that's something you don't want to do, then you're not stuck with it because you've worked in like open source projects and if you can always say bye-bye to them. Without being so much dedicated. So that's the reason why I'm saying that, because that's what I'm working on now, like one of the open source projects, which I really like. And it helps strengthen, what I'm already doing now in software testing. And it's like, okay, this is what I like. This is what I don't mind doing, helping out with the open source community. And it also is good to help put that on your resume and show that, you did these things with the open source projects or the community.
I mean, absolutely. And I love that idea. And I love that you transitioned that pretty well into the QA part, which I wanted to ask you. Can you tell us, like, how is it like being a QA, a quality engineer?
So it's not sure what the words describe with being a software tester.
No, give us the all ends. What do you do in your day-to-day job?
So on a day-to-day basis, basically, as a software tester, you receive tickets. You may work, in my case, you may work on a project for months or maybe a year testing different types of features. In my case, I test different features on, various things before it's actually sent out to the world, or as we call it, production. So you want to test it to make sure that the information or the features or the products that you're working on is good, so the customer will not complain.
Yeah.
So that's what I do on a day-to-day basis. There's other issues where you may have to report issues from what you have seen, like write bug reports.
Yeah.
Write other issues that may have come up, or help out with other team members that may need help with testing previous versions that they have. So it's a lot involved being a software tester. That's just to, mention a few things that I do on a day-to-day basis.
Wow, I like that. And I do have a follow-up question on that. If somebody wanted to get started into being a tester, a software tester, where can they get started and what would you tell them? I do want to mention, though, I loved the fact that you mentioned the open source project kind of for volunteering. That's a very good start.
Right. So there's a couple of things that I would say, like I mentioned before, open source is a really good one. If you are interested, like I'll say the one that I'm doing. One of the open source projects I'm working on is called Libre Office. It's an alternative to Microsoft Word, but it's where you can, and I have a really nice mentor. I like to say he's really, really cool. So he mentors us all the time on the tickets that he's testing. So I have to give him a really good shout out. I think his name is Yamari. I'm sorry if I said it wrong, but Yamari is a really good mentor and instructor of those who have an interest in, wanting to know how to be like triage tickets and do other things besides just triaging tickets. So I have to give a shout out to him through LibreOffice. Again, that's just one of them, but there's other open source ones that you can do for quality assurance. Now,
oh my goodness, you do quality assurance for LibreOffice? Because I've used it on my Linux laptop. Oh my God, you're amazing.
They have other areas as too. So if you're not interested in software testing, they do have development, they do have marketing, they do have other areas that you can volunteer for. To work with. So that's one way that you can actually, start my open source. Another way is, this is how I got into mine as a software tester, is if you're already working in a job, then there might be areas where you can do software testing. A perfect example is when I first started, I was working in help desk a lot. And one of my team leads wanted us to always write test cases for ServiceNow. And most of us was like, we already work in help desk. We don't want to.
Yeah.
And so we didn't realize that we were really being like partly doing software testing, because she was, asking us to write test cases and then audit them and then go through it to make sure they pass or fail. So that's how it started with us. So maybe some companies may have that in help desk where you can go in to like write test cases or audit or test the features before they get sent out. And then you can write out the steps like, oh, I found a bug. So here's the steps that I found, and these are how I reproduced the issue. So it can start with if you're working in help desk or in any other capacity where you can be able to get that experience as a software tester.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing with us, Tammy. And you did mention to me that you do writing. I wanted you to mention that for people that are listening so they can follow you, because I think this is a very great field. And I do hear a lot of conversation like, what can I do in tech? And I love the fact that in my podcast, I get to speak to different people like TPM, QA, iOS engineer, Android engineers, and web. And it's amazing. There's so many things people can do in tech. So do you want to mention where people can find you, where they can read about your blogs?
Sure. And before that, I'm glad you brought that up too, Donna, is that even though as a software tester, it also involves, like you said, product managers, project managers, designers, UX people, developers. So we all work together in harmony, to be able to get the products or the services out to the customer. So being a software tester, you also want to be able to work along with the developer, work along with the project manager, the UX designer, all of them, to just make sure that it works effectively, together. So, so where people can actually reach me, as you had said, I did start a new blog, and this blog is basically for software testers for beginners, as well as automation for beginners. So it's called developbit.com. It's for software testers for beginners. Not that I probably won't do intermediate, but for now, I really wanted to focus on talking about how a software tester can, start as a beginner, what resources they can use, what open source projects they can be able to go to, what books you can actually read, and also on the side, like, talk about Python for beginners, how you can be able to automate your test as a beginner. So again, I'm just focusing on as a beginner at this point.
Perfect. Amazing. And before I let you go, I wanted to ask you, what tools do you use for automation?
Well, currently the tools that I use for automation is PyTest. That's what I'm learning right now.
Nice.
For my previous job, the tools that we did use was Java and Selenium.
Oh yeah, I know Selenium is pretty popular. Cool.
Very
Wow.
popular. Yeah, but now I'm learning how to use the PyTest, and hopefully I could be able to share that with others through
Yeah.
my blog and also the YouTube videos that I'm also creating.
Tammy, this has been so great. Thank you so much for joining us today. I mean, I have no words. You gave us so much great content in what you do and what you've been doing over the years. I wanted to ask you one more question because I'm just itching to ask you this. Been in the field for so long. Do you have any collectibles? Like tech collectibles? Like what do you have? What is your collection?
Oh my, I do not have any tech collectibles. Oh my goodness, I should.
You should.
I should, but I don't. Now, I did have one years and years ago, but sadly I got rid of it. It was an old Mac machine. Like the one that looks like it was a shell.
Yeah.
It was a shell Mac machine. Oh my goodness, I loved that one so much, but I got rid of it.
Yeah, because I think
only one I had.
That's a very good point. And I think that before IT was just, there wasn't anything like computer science. It was just purely IT. But now I feel like things have branched out and IT is pretty different. So what do you think about that too? Oh, sorry. I feel like I'm adding so many questions.
About it branching out into different areas?
Yeah. But I mean, it does make sense that it branched out because we've evolved and I feel like humans evolved too. But what is your view?
I think it's a great thing that it has branched out. I really do. I'm glad, in a sense, it's not just, IT and then you focus on security or you focus on networking or, there's development. Like there's so many different layers now that you can do, like your front end and, your web development, or then you have your back end and then you have you can just do automation or you can just do testing or, it's just a really good thing where you're not just stuck in that one particular hole. You can actually be able to okay, I like this area, I'm going to go into it. And now that data analytics is big, you can go into that area as well.
That's true. Well, thank you so much. This was so much fun. And I'm wishing you happy holidays because this is recorded in December. I think I'm going to be launching this in January. So,
Okay.
yeah.